Please don't affiliate me with none of these things. I want to address the fact that they're setting up traps for our people. Whether you believe or not is of none effect. When that day comes, what you gonna do when you find out that these people have been teaching falsehoods and you've been promoting and pushing these things? It's gonna be a weeping and gnashing of teeth. So please do not affiliate me with none of these things. Like I said, these brothers right here are wicked, very wicked men that are portraying righteousness. They're setting up traps for our people. They call Hawaiians and Australian or Aborigines our people. They lie about the Israelites. They take our people completely out of the way while not going into the gaps, not keeping our people protected in the day of battle. They'll debate Christians because there's nothing to destroy a Christian doctrine. But when it comes to edification of the scriptures with an Israelite who's been studying for himself and knows and understands that these things are traps and the falsehoods in their doctrines, they don't want no parts of that. For edification, I'll debate whoever for edification. If we're going to edify, we're going to edify. But these people are lying. They setting up traps to the people completely. Then he lies and says that Dan isn't mentioned in the New Testament. The word Dan isn't mentioned, so he partially lies. But Dan is in the New Testament. Like I said, you can't understand. There's precepts in the New Testament that you can never comprehend. You can't understand the Gospels without understanding the Dan tribe. All you'd have to do is type in generation and vipers. And you'll see that Dan makes an appearance in the New Testament. This is Matthew 3:7. It says, but when he saw, he being John the Baptist. This is John the Baptist. When he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees come to his baptism, he said unto them, O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come? These words of the Messiah, Matthew 12:34. O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. Matthew 23:33. This is the Messiah. Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? Luke 3:7 is the same as Matthew 3:7. It says, then said he being John the Baptist, then said he to the multitude that came forth to be baptized of him, O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Which is equivalent to saying, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. If you haven't been partial in the basics, that immediately should have told you that he is speaking to the Dan tribe who is judging the people, the heads of the people. The Pharisees, the scribes, the chief priests, the high priests, they were the Danites that crept in unawares among the people, teaching our people traditions that transgress the law, even in our day. Traditions like camp doctrine. None of the forefathers was in a camp. These ain't the same paths that our forefathers walked. They didn't learn from the camp. Like they love their positions. I'm gonna break down a little bit of Matthew 23. I'm gonna go into Matthew 23. I want to address also in Matthew 24, verse 9. It says, they shall deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. For the real truth and the real doctrine, we are hated by all nations. All nations also includes the Danites. They hate us. They're not going to teach you the truth. They're going to act like they're teaching you the truth subtly, while not going into the gaps, while misleading the people, while not making up the hedge for the house of Israel to be able to stand in the battle in the day of the Most High. It says here in verse 10, and then shall many be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another. Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Many people fall for this crap. This is crap right here, this GOCC stuff. I can say this boldly. I can boldly say that this stuff is trash because it's death to our people. And I can go into their doctrines and completely break it down how they're lying about very many different things. GMS as well, House of Israel, IUIC, Sakari, all these things are trash to our people. They're not going into the gaps. They're not telling you about the Danites being among us for a reason. I want to go into also, Luke 21. Luke 21, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. For the real truth gets us hated, hated by the Negro Indian. The Bible gets us hated for the real truth. With that, I want to go into Matthew 23. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. I'm just gonna paraphrase a little bit and show and prove that everything that I went to and how and in these series of videos also carries over into the New Testament. You can't understand the New Testament if you don't understand the Old Testament whatsoever, especially the covenant. If you don't understand the covenant, the law, statutes, and commandments when it comes to the New Testament, you'll never understand it. Here in verse number 1, it says, Then spake the Messiah to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Right then and there, she told you right there, just by saying that Dan is the ones who were the scribes and the Pharisees that shall judge his people as one of the tribes, governing. There was the heads. The last days being the time of the Messiah as well. That's when the last days started. Now they can call it the last days then because of how many thousands of years had already passed from the time of Adam until that iron, to the time of the Romans. When the time of the Romans has passed, and now the time of the iron and miry clay that we're in, Roman Empire Part 2, that's mixed among the people, mixed among all nations, is this Roman Jesuit power structure. That this has been the last days, before the end, before the Most High Son comes and destroys all kingdoms. So Dan in the last days was judging his people as one of the tribes of Israel. You can never understand that, never understand Matthew 23 without understanding that. So when it says the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat of judgment, it says, All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. Now when they tell you that we're the Israelites under the covenant, and that you should keep the law, statutes, and commandments and study to show thyself approved, do that. Because they say that, but they're not doing it. They're not going into the gaps. They're not teaching you the true, full doctrine. So what they say, do, but don't do after their works, for they say and do not. They're saying they're keeping the covenant, but they're really not. They're teaching our people falsehoods. And lies is not of the covenant. Lies is not of the real truth. There's no lie of the truth. Okay, he said, For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. They're prideful. They got the garments. They show themselves on the outward to be righteous. They love their nice, beautiful garments, and they love the names, the high positions of rank that they have, the general, commanding generals and their captains and their chief priests and high priests. They love their chief seats. They love their prideful people. They love their greetings. They love when people call them chief. There's people actually calling other brothers chief because they call themselves chief priests today. That's unreal. Unreal that people are taking on titles that have completely given up our king. And they're taking these titles on in our days, and our people believe them to be true. Like the chief priest gave up the Son of the Most High. They called for him to be killed. And you calling a man chief priest in our day, a man is calling himself that, and you believe for him to be teaching you the truth? Our people are blinded, man. Like I said, they love these falsehoods. Our people have always loved idols. He said, be not ye called rabbi. Got people calling themselves rabbi in our days, calling themselves Israel. Even Israel in the continent of Africa, they call themselves rabbi. I've seen it today. We have one master, that's the Messiah, and all ye are brethren. As I said, there's nobody that should be exalting himself above his brethren. We all brothers. We should be sharing this information to our people to bring our brothers to the equivalent knowledge. Verse 9 it says, And call no man your father. We only have one Father, the Heavenly Father, one Master, the Messiah, one Chief. He's our Chief Shepherd. You call man Chief if you want, but we have one Chief Shepherd. It says, But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Verse 13, But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. These rulers of the people that are hypocritically mocking our people. Scornful men that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. Hypocrites. For ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. So the kingdom of heaven doesn't even pertain to the 13th tribe that was ruling over the people, so they shut the kingdom to the children of the kingdom. Right there should tell you again who also is being spoken about. They shut the kingdom of heaven against men because they don't even go in themselves. They're not even mentioned among the people, among the elect of our people. So they shut the kingdom to the children of the kingdom. Verse number 14 says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. Levels. Keep trying to convince these Danites that they don't want to do that. These people that are these scornful men ruling over our people hypocritically. There's a greater damnation, which means there's a lesser damnation. You reap what you sow. This is love. Greater damnation. That's love to these Danite Negroes that's watching, because they are watching. You don't want to continue to be doing this folly. There's a greater damnation that is guaranteed. Verse number 15, it says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you can pass sea and land and make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. They're going all over the place. They're going to Africa to mislead our people. They're going all over the place, making hellions. So definitely these are the blind guides. As I read, blinded, eyes covered, that they can't see, spirit of blindness. Once I put a spirit of deep sleep on these people to be able to believe that there's profit in misleading the 12 tribes of Israel, it takes a blindness. To join an alliance with the Roman government in the last days, the Romans, as well as Roman Empire Part 2, takes a blindness. Ye fools and blind. Parables. Now verse 19, ye fools and blind. He says it twice. Even though in Matthew chapter 5 verse 22, he told our people not to say that to our people. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hell fire. Ye fools and blind. Ye fools and blind. The Son of the Most High is not a hypocrite. He's telling you parabolically by calling these men fools that are ruling over the people that they are not our brethren. These people are the Dan tribe Negroes that have been blinded. Their eyes have been covered. Fools. He's not going to tell you to do something and then do it himself. These people were in a position of power. In the days of the Son of the Most High, there wasn't freedom of speech. Like, they couldn't say, to hell with Caesar, he ain't my king. They'd be put to death. In our day, you could say, to hell with Trump, he ain't my president, because we have that freedom of speech. They couldn't do those things in their day. So parabolically, he's telling you that the people that was ruling over our people were not our people. Ye fools and blind. They're blinded people and fools. That's why he calls them fools. Even though he tells you not to call your brethren fools. These people aren't our brothers. So they're very prideful people. There are prideful people that's ruling over our people. They omit the heavier things of the law. Are you blind guides, blinded? Verse 25, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you may clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Calls them whited sepulchres, appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. Wickedness on the inside. How can ye being evil speak good things? Verse number 28, even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. So it says here in verse number 29, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because ye build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Therefore ye be witnesses unto yourselves, that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, ye generations of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell? They can't escape it. Their covenant with death and hell is soon to be disannulled. They cannot escape the damnation of hell. It says here in verse number 34, wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall ye scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous bloodshed upon the earth. From the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. He ain't talking about all people that are alive at that time. Many people followed the Son of the Most High. He isn't calling